You will see the front page of the I newspaper today. The Church versus Boris Johnson. Bishops tell the PM the Rwanda flight shames the UK. Yes, it's the Church of England, Archbishops of Canterbury, York, 23 other bishops who sit in the House of Lords are telling the Prime Minister our Christian heritage should inspire us to treat asylum seekers with compassion and justice. And apparently this is causing great controversy. This is coming after, of course, the court allowed the first flight to go ahead. I think there were just 7 people on it this time, though. OK, let's now talk to Bill Bowkett, the political commentator on this story. Morning, Bill.
Morning, Cristo.
So, are the Church of England, this is the latest on this, right to be wading in on this? Not just now the Archbishop of Canterbury, but in total, something like, I think, 23 other bishops, plus the Archbishops of Canterbury and York, so 25 in total, saying it's unchristian. What do you make of it?
Well, what you're starting to see, whether you have these rulings by the High Court and then yesterday by the Court of Appeal, upholding the decision to go ahead with the initial £120 million Rwanda trial, is now the elites are getting involved. First, you had the monarchy with Prince Charles and his private comments. Now you've got the Church of England saying in this letter that it's a shame on our own because our Christian heritage should inspire us to treat asylum seekers with compassion and fairness and justice. But the thing is that in many ways, as a fellow Christian myself, they should look at the words of Exodus, which is, taking the Lord's name in vain, because in many ways, in a scheme like this, whilst controversial, might be necessary because, as the judge said yesterday, there is a genuine public interest concern. There has already been 10,000 illegal immigrants that have entered this country this year, and it's a key Conservative manifesto promise. And I think there's been a lot, the entire scheme has been misconstrued as immoral and abhorrent when in reality that is not the case.
I don't think the scheme's perfect, if you ask me. I think that there are flaws in it, and I think, as I said yesterday morning, whether it is a success or not depends on the parameters by which you are measuring it, i.e., if you want to do what Australia did and look at it from the point of view of the number of people coming across on boats, well, they're doing something similar, actually worked very, very well. So if that's your parameter, well, there is chance for success. I understand those people that have concerns about it, and about whether this is the right move. My issue is with the critics is that, firstly, I've not heard one word of an alternative from any of these critics, firstly. And secondly, I think you used a very, very appropriate word when you said elites at the start of this. It really sticks in my craw that the Church of England are criticising this, and because it was, as I mentioned yesterday, they have billions of pounds worth of land. They have billions of pounds worth of the ability, really, to build housing to solve many of the problems that have led to the climate where this kind of policy is necessary. Now, if the Church of England came out and said, right, we are going to build 10,000 affordable homes on our land, and we're going to rent them at an affordable rent, half of them, in order to solve some of the housing crisis, but we think this Rwanda plan is terrible, I'd say, at least you're putting your money where your mouth is. But where I think it's misjudged, and I don't know what you think, is the fact that we're hearing this criticism when they have it in their hands to solve one of the problems that's led to this.
That's right, and it also stinks of hypocrisy as well, because they are undermining the democratic legitimacy of our parliament, who in the last parliament approved the Nationality and Borders Bill, which is how this initial trial, this scheme has been put in place initially. And it's not just in Australia. Look at the European Union. European Union have very similar systems as well. You have even Austria that is now encouraging Brussels to implement a similar system in conjunction to what we saw during the refugee crisis back in 2015, when illegal immigrants that were coming from North Africa and the Middle East going to Greece were then sent to Turkey. And you've got to think of the humane approach to this, because it's not about necessarily, because obviously politics plays a key role, because, as I mentioned, many of the motives for people voting Conservative in 2019 and again, and subsequently Brexit in 2016 was to take back control of our borders. But another reason why a scheme that's necessary is to stop the illicit and abhorrent trade of people smuggling. And like I said, there hasn't really
if that's your parameter,
any other alternatives.
I can see that. I don't think it's perfect. I really don't. But I find it abhorrent that no one's putting forward any other alternatives. And just so you know, the church owns, the church of which these archbishops and these bishops are a part of, they own 200,000 acres of land here in the UK. And so, fine, you're going to criticise it? Well, why don't you come up with something that would help ease the burden on people who are here already, and then maybe you would have the right to criticise it in the way you have. Thanks so much. Good to talk to you, Bill Bowkett, political commentator, on that story this morning.